All right. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM Edinburgh. I'm Justin Ferrer, the Sportsmaster, and I have a commercial to tell you all. This segment of 4 Deep Sports Talk is made possible by the generous support of Diesel District. Diesel District, the national fuel resource in 46 states, boasts a fleet over 900 fuel delivery trucks. 4 Deep Sports Talks would like to congratulate Diesel District on its 25th year anniversary. Thank you, Diesel District, for your unwavering support, helping us provide a platform for high school and youth athletes in southeastern Massachusetts.
Okay. And what was your first question?
Well, we should say who's here.
Yeah,
we are here.
Nice. I was hoping that everybody knows.
I was hoping he was going to work that into.
Come on.
Okay.
I'm going to watch the board. Have a great show.
All right. So today's guest is Dan Kaiser, who is the new coach of Canton High School basketball. So, Dan, can you tell us a little bit about your basketball career and what it's been like?
Absolutely. I've been coaching probably about, I always say I've been coaching about 28 plus years now. I'm originally from Ohio. I played high school basketball. I played college basketball for 2 years. I had an opportunity to start my coaching career at a basketball camp where I went to high school, Wadsworth, Ohio. My high school coach was he was a Hall of Fame, Ohio High School Hall of Fame coach. He probably had about 400 plus wins. I learned a great deal from him. He was like my second father. Dave Slacky was his name, and it just from the get-go, that this is something I wanted to do in high school. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to, if there was a major in coaching, that's what I wanted to do. They didn't have a major back then for coaching, but I ended up doing sports management. It took me like 17 colleges and 16 years to basically get my degree. But I ended up persevering, and I got through it. Basketball wise, I've worked probably 85 different basketball camps. I have coached college basketball in those 28 years. I probably was a college basketball coach for 10. I was a head coach. I was an assistant. I worked at different places like Denison University in Granville, Ohio, Ashland University, Ashland, Ohio. I worked at, I was at Eastern Nazarene. I got the head coaching job out here, at a young age, 26. Wow. By the time I was 30, I realized, wow, I don't know as much as I think I do. I ended up going back. I was an assistant for 2 years at Endicott College for a guy named James Cosgrove, who's now the head basketball coach down at Trinity University in Connecticut. And, it was a great experience working for him because, he was highly intense, and, he ended up, coaching and playing in different, high levels. And, I just learned a lot of different things about basketball from him. I ended up going over to Framingham State. I worked for Don Spellman. Donnie was a really, really good mentor, basketball coach, had a lot of great ideas. And then, life takes over. At Eastern Nazarene, I met my wife. We ended up getting married, have 4 kids. Well, you have to, in that process, you have to basically figure out, all right, the whole college basketball thing, eating macaroni and cheese every night and right. Basically, trying to dirt dog it where you're not making a lot of money. That's got to go to the wayside. So I got into teaching. I started working on getting a teaching degree. While I was doing that, I still coached. I was coaching a Boston Mavericks AAU basketball team that I had started, for 5 years. Met a lot of people while I was doing that. It was fantastic. It was a great experience because, in AAU basketball, it opens a lot of avenues for you.
Yeah, definitely does.
I ended up going to Hull High School. as an assistant. Like I was like a scout for Jimmy Quattromoni, who basically runs the MIA. He's now running the MIA basketball tournament as the athletic director at Hingham High School. So, he stopped coaching. He's now that. He was a really, really good mentor to work for a year. And then I got an opportunity to meet Kalon Jenkins. All right, and Kalon Jenkins at Randolph, he hires me on. We have a great relationship. I now tell people, this is my brother from another mother. He's a great guy. He's an excellent basketball coach. I learned so many things from him, just basically with the business, and you grow and you mentor and you move on. And I worked for him from like 2010 to 2017. And then I went from, I had to have a little change of pace. So I go to Weston High School, and I was working at Weston High School for a guy by the name of Dave First. And Dave First was a former prep school coach down at Tabor. And I ended up working the Bay State games for him for like maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I went down and I was an assistant for him. And, I go and work for him in Weston, all right? And I learned a lot of stuff. He was a great zone coach. I had no clue about zone 2-3, 1-3-1, all the different, shifts and traps and all. And I learned a lot of stuff from him with that. And, during that process with Kalon, I think Randolph, we went to the sectional final against Whitman Hanson in 2016. We lost. We were one game from going to the Garden. I was at Weston. We were one game in my second year from going to the Garden. We lost to Drake at the Buzzard, basically. It's still to this day when I watch YouTube and I see that shot, because one of our kids didn't block out, and you're like, why didn't he block out? If he just would have blocked out, we would have won this game. But
Nerves, must have been nerves.
yeah, whatever it was, it's fine. It's part of life.
Part of it.
And the thing is that kid that didn't block out, I have a great relationship with that kid, and to this day I still help him out, and he still asks for advice and that sort of thing. But then I ended up going back to Randolph. Coach Jenkins loses 3 assistants, and he says, "Kaz, do you want to come back?" And I said, "Absolutely. Sure. Let's do some stuff." And when we come back, we went to the Elite Eight. We played Situate. We lose to them. The next year, COVID happened.
Yep.
The devastating COVID. The season was cut in half, and we ended up only playing like 13 games. We had a conference, it was like the first ever conference championship. We went to the conference championship. We lose that game to Abington. And then the next year was what we would call the miraculous year. Things were clicking. Guys were buying in. Basically, we had moved from Division II. We ended up moving from Division II MIAA to Division III. Our athletic director, because he wanted to basically have all the sports, at Randolph, play. There's not a lot. We don't get a lot. At Randolph, we didn't get a lot of we didn't get a lot of people who would basically participate for different sports. So, in order to basically get some success, he had a waiver with the MIA. We got bumped to Division IV. A lot of coaches were mad about it. You guys shouldn't be in Division IV. That's
mail
wrong.
enrollment, all this other crap.
And I'm like, listen, I've told coaches, if you put us against an NBA team, we'll compete.
Right.
We may lose, but we're going to compete.
There you go.
Right.
Because that's what it all is. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You just compete.
Right.
If you're a competitor, you're a competitor. So we had a magical year. We lose our first game to Middleborough, And after that, we win 23 straight and win the title. So that was pretty good. And then last year, now we're going to segue into to Canton. Last year, I was the interim head coach. All right, and one of the reasons why I was the interim head coach is because my boss, Kaylon Jenkins, calls me up like the day before Thanksgiving, and he says, I want you just to, I told him, hey, I just got this. I'm a special ed teacher at Canton High School, and I just got the job at Canton High School. And I said, Coach, I got the special ed job. I'm so happy about it. Things are clicking. I'm doing the. And he says, well, congratulations to you, but by the way, congratulations also, you're going to be the interim head coach. And I was like, excuse me? Yeah. Because, I had gone back and forth for so many years on, do I want to be a head coach? Do I not want to be a head coach? Do I like being an assistant? Do you want that responsibility? So you go back and forth all the time with that. And as I go back and forth, I would tell my wife this, and she'd say, you sure you want to do this?
Of course.
At the beginning of the season, I was like, at the beginning of last season, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Maybe I should just hand this off to somebody else and go tell the athletic director, Tony Price. And, there's people who are like, nah, you're ready for it. And these kids, they look up to you. And I have a great relationship with all the guys at Randolph. There might be 2 or 3, I don't know. There might be more, that look at Coach Kaiser and Coach Jenkins. Hey, we don't like them because they didn't play us. But we have great relationships with our guys. And what happens is basically I take over. I used Coach Jenkins. Coach Jenkins ends up, going on medical leave. He ends up in the hospital. He ends up being basically he was like a consigliere to me. So I would go talk to him like it was almost like therapy. I would talk to him every week, either on Saturday or Sunday, and I'd say, this is what happened. How do I deal with this? This is what happened. How do I deal with this? And he was just a great mentor. He was, and I kind of, I try not to tear up when I talk about this because when it happened, it was pretty sad because he's a dear friend of mine. He has this medical condition that he's going through. He's now rehabbing, and he's going to come back as the head basketball coach. And you got people like myself who are telling him, listen, you can do this. We know you can do this. We want you to do this. We want you to do what you want to do, because he wants to be a basketball coach again. And by all means, I think that he'll be fantastic. And I really appreciate the opportunities that he's given me to be his assistant coach, as well as the opportunities that he's given me to learn and grow. And, it's worked out great.
Awesome.
So
that's great.
That's awesome, man.
we ended up going to the Elite Eight, for Division IV, and we lost to the Burke, and Coach Ryan.
Man, I know that school.
Coach Ryan ran his famous zone, and we couldn't shoot over the top of it. So
actually, it's crazy that you said the Burke.
Yep.
So I'm a social emotional therapist, and I worked actually at Madison Park.
Yep.
And also our program where I worked, BAM, called Becoming a Man. We had therapists in the Burke. I was supposed to be at that game. You played the Burke.
Okay.
My one of my therapists, he's the assistant coach over there at the Burke.
Okay.
And I was Kevin. I can't think of Kevin's name. One of the coaches. He may be an assistant or the head. I'm not for sure. I was supposed to be at that game, and I missed it, man. It's crazy how things come around 360. Now we have the head coach that I was supposed to see.
Yep.
Now I still got to meet you, man. You're quite a journeyman.
Yeah.
You're quite a journeyman.
Yeah. There's, I'm just giving you a rough shot of, but there's so many other things that, in terms of like my coaching career, when we talk about like people who you've worked for, if somebody said, hey, who's the top 5 coaches you ever worked for? All right. I would put Kalen Jenkins. He's definitely in there. Kalen Jenkins is in there. I worked for a guy by the name of Don Meyer, all right, he ended up winning an SB award, all right, 2013, 2014.
That's awesome.
I worked his basketball camp. I worked a basketball camp for Morgan Wooten, all right, won 1,000 games, high school Hall of Famer, and then Bob Hurley. All right, yeah. Bob Hurley Sr. Duke. So when they're showing Bob Hurley Sr. and Bob Hurley Jr. During the UConn run last year, I was like, yeah, I got to work for that guy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome,
that is cool.
All right, we're going to take our first break. You can call in at 508-222-1320. We have the distinct privilege of having the new basketball coach, boys basketball coach at Canton High School, Dan Kaiser. We'll be back with him and more right after this.
Good stuff, man.
Wow.
All you.
Oh, it's all me. It's all me. How you doing, Coach Kaiser? I heard you speaking and telling about your journey, man. This is a hell of a journey, and a lot of times people give up. People stop, coaching or because it's such a journey. It's a process. Like you said, it's the process. And I was just want to know, some people were telling you, oh, you got this. You can do it, man. The relationships. And then, some people might have said, you think you really you've been in the game a while, you want to take this on as being the Canton head coach.
Yep.
What was along what everybody else was saying, what was your gut telling you? What did that inner, when you sit by yourself and you hear that other voice that you don't see?
A lot of it has to do with when I was a basketball coach back when I was 26 years old. I got the head coaching job at Eastern Nazarene College. I just left Denison University. We were 19-8. We went to the 64 tournament. We played the number 2 team in the country, Hope College. All right. Joel Holstag was the player of the year. He averaged about 25 a game. We held him to 12. We lose by 3 in the last 30 seconds of the game, all right, at their place. And I get this head coaching job, and I feel like a hot ticket. And what happens is when you feel like a hot ticket, you feel like that you don't do anything wrong, even though in the back of your head, I still got a lot of stuff to learn. And what happened was I ended up falling on my face pretty bad. because you lose games, you lose relationships, you don't handle things well. You get a bit of humility. Now, as the years have gone on, all right, the same book that I was reading back when I was 21 trying to get into coaching, you reread things, and you reread things from different people and different philosophers and different, ways of going about things. But what I came to understand is one, it's balance. You have to have balance in your life. You have to have humility with anything and everything that you do. And I mean, I know that, I feel great that we won a state championship. And I'll say, hey, we won a state championship. But at the end of the day, it's about your relationships that you build with people.
Absolutely.
All right. It's about the process of developing people into better human beings, better basketball players, trying to be positive, because that a kid's going to take a terrible shot. That a kid's not going to be able to guard a guy in space. That a guy's not going to be able to do something. But what do? Instead of, getting mad about it, and, in my last, 3 years since I came back from Weston, I said to myself, I'm going to be more of a positive guy, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter what it is. And I'm just going to have more of the attitude of agile, mobile, hostile. That's something I tell players all the time. I want you to be agile, mobile, hostile. And I develop a great relationship with the kids in that, those 3 years that when I came back, that in that year that Coach Jenkins is asking me to do this, one, I'm not going to let him down, all right, because he's asking me for a favor. And he says, you're the guy that can do it. And I'm like, wow, thanks, Coach. Mm-hmm. The other thing is I'm not going to let down the players, because I had formed a bond with these players. We had only 3 guys returning from the state title team. And I went to those 3 guys and I said, listen, you're my 3 core guys. All right. You're going to have to help me with these other guys. And then what happens is the guys who moved up from JV to varsity, because we had a lot of guys who moved JV to varsity. And then I ended up keeping 2 guys that we cut. All right. In the years past, we did not play we did not keep these two kids on the team. I ended up putting them on the team. And I'm just like, listen, we're going to learn to battle together. So we're going to battle, but a lot of it is you take over. And what really was I'm not letting people down. I'm not going to let Coach Jenkins down. I'm not going to let myself down. I'm not going to let the players down. I know that I can do this, and I feel that I'm ready. And, the bottom line is this. You're not 26. Right. I said that. You're not 26. You're a completely different human being than what you were when you were 26. Because we just talked about this out there. When you're 17, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
And then what happens is then all of a sudden you get mentoring and coaching, and you had assistants that told you stuff, and you had Coach Philip Fulmer telling you stuff at Tennessee.
Absolutely.
And things happen to you where you're just like, you know what? I'm ready for the trial.
Right.
So that's what it was. And I was glad that I made the decision. We had we had a pretty good year. Listen, we lost some games. We were 18-5. In years past, when we'd lose a game, I'd come back and I'd be like, I'm gonna have these guys run.
Right.
It's like, you know what? No, we're gonna learn how to. We're gonna learn how to. What did we do wrong that we got to get better? So that's all it is, and that's part of growth for myself. Yeah. So, the whole thing was a process, and it was about balance and humility, and I was glad I made the decision.
Now, you also said balance is key,
yep.
And I get that, completely get that.
Yep.
But you also said you have 4 sons and a wife.
Oh yeah, I have 2 sons and 2 daughters.
2 sons and 2 daughters.
Two sons, 2 daughters.
Wow.
That's
So
an
life
Italian family right
happens.
there.
Yeah, life happens.
And it sounded like life happened awfully young for you.
Yeah. Yep.
And so going through this journey, how do you balance that? Do your sons play for you?
No, my oldest son is he's a cross country and track runner.
Wow.
When I first started, when we first started to have kids, I wanted all of them to play basketball. And then what happens is it's like, you know what? They are who they are, and they have to. You're letting them grow. So my 2 daughters, they play basketball, but it's not like I'm pushing them towards it. I'm not pushing you towards it. If this is something you want to do, I have 2 daughters that, one's like a 3.5 GPA, one's a 4.3 GPA. I know for a fact my oldest daughter, who's the 4.3, she wants to coach, and I was like, what? You got a 4.3 and you want to coach? But if this is the journey that she wants, then so be it. That's what I want for her. My two daughters run track, cross country. They play basketball as well. And then my youngest, he's basically figuring out what he wants to do. And right now, he's just a video gamer. I mean, he's, he knows.
He's a kid.
Yeah, he's a kid. He's a kid. And the great thing, this is the other part of the journey, my 4 kids will humble me. And what I mean by that is when I coached at Randolph, I was an interim head coach, and I took over for Coach Jenkins one game. He ended up getting COVID one day, and I didn't put a kid in until like the last 3 minutes left. Now, we were blowing this other team out by 20, 25, and my 2 daughters were like, "You were so wrong. I can't believe you're not doing this. You're making a mistake. You shouldn't even be coaching, blah, 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 blah." And so, you get humbled. And what happens is you end up having, like my 2 daughters, they're so ingrained in the basketball with my Randolph guys. They would follow them on Instagram, and they follow them on Snapchat and, social whatever. And, they'll tell me, "Oh, yeah, your player was doing this. Your player was doing this." Da, 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 da. And I was like, I don't want to hear this.
Of course.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear any of that. But, the balance is they know that I want them to be successful in what they want to do, and they want me to be successful in what I do. And, I'll be sitting in the living room with them, and I'll be on my computer watching basketball as they're sitting there. And, one of them will say, "Hey, listen, can I talk to you about this or that? Or, you're not paying attention to me." And then I'll just, all right, I'll put this down and, I'll listen. So, yeah.
It's quite the journey.
It's your journey.
I got a question.
Sure.
I got a bunch of questions, but I know we're
Yeah,
gonna go
me
running.
too. I got a lot of them too.
So you've been doing this so long, Coach, and how can you tell, or what's your key into getting teams like any team you coached in the past as far as gelling? I mean, I think it's so to stay in sync and
Yep.
whatever the terminology the kids use now. I don't know, to stay together and play. What have you seen, or what have you learned in the past about something that always seems to work?
I think a lot of it is it's culture. It's developing a culture. It's ingrained culture. This is one of the things that I learned at one of the basketball camps that I worked at a long time ago. And then Coach Jenkins and I, it was Coach Jenkins, and I follow his lead. Just to give you a simple thing, right? As soon as games are over with, everybody picks up trash. All right. Everybody picks up trash, because what happens is you'll see teams, they'll leave bottles underneath the bench of a game, and I'll say, "Guys, I don't care what else, anything I want you to pick up trash." And what happens is guys are like, "What's that all about?"
Right. Right.
But it's a little thing that you're trying to get players to buy in and be together. I'm not allowed to coach my guys right now because of MIA rules.
Right.
But the things that I can say is I can say, "Listen, you guys just showing up to Summer League and being here, first I want to thank you for that, because sincerely, there's probably some summer league teams that don't show up. There are some teams that basically, I'm not going to get in this for whatever reason.
Right.
But you basically, that's also showing the humility, which I try to do, and I want them to understand, everything that I want them to implement. You have to. It's about, and I'll say this a lot of times. I'll say, it's not about you. It's about us.
Solidarity of the whole thing.
It's us. It's togetherness.
Yep.
It's family. I'm not going to ask them to do anything, whether it was Randolph, whether it was Weston, whether it was now Canton. I'm not going to ask players to do anything that I would not do.
There you go.
I'm going to try and get players to, what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, and that's how we start to gel together.
There you go. We're going to take our second break. Again, you can call in 508-222-1320. We have the brand new boys basketball coach from Canton High School, Dan Kaiser. We'll be back with him and more right after this.
Nice.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM Attleboro. We are continuing highlighting Canton boys basketball coach Dan Kaiser. Now, the next thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think are the best lessons you've learned as a coach?
Oh,
He's prepared, Coach. You better be ready.
Yeah.
He's ready.
this is good. This is a great question. Great question. The lessons that I've learned. There are so many lessons that I've learned. I think one of the first things that I've learned is whatever game you've won or lost, that's today. All right. One of the things that I always do for pregame, all right, and what I do for practice is I'll go into practice and I'll say, today is, Monday, December 16th, 2021, okay? And what I would always say is you're not getting this day back. You're not getting it back. And what happens is if you don't put everything out there and give great effort and great energy and have great passion and enthusiasm for what you're doing, then guess what? You have just wasted that day. Because there were so many times that we all take for granted, all right? I, as a coach, took things for granted. You know, when I'm 26 years old, I'm like, oh, yeah, we'll be this, we'll be that. Da, da, da. It doesn't work like that. You know, this is part of the process. And when we talk about the process, all right, you know, the process is continuous, okay? Just because you did something either terrible or fantastic, guess what? We have to still build every day for what we're doing. And that's part of the journey, okay? You know, I would go in every day and I would say, you know, whether it was Randolph or whether it's Canton, because I've said this already to the Canton guys, okay? I've said there's enough talent here to win a league title. There's enough talent here to win a state championship. Now, you got to understand, I'm saying this with not seeing all of the Hockomock teams, okay, with their coaches on the sideline. The bottom line is this. You have to have, you know, I think that you have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. You have to have people basically follow that dream, that vision. You have to have people basically implement that as much as possible, because this is part of the lesson, you know. I mean, we're all in this to, you know, everybody here is, you know, trying to find a career. They're trying to get better. They're trying to survive, all right? And what I want to do is I want players that I coach all the time to basically thrive, survive, multiply, all right? And I like using those kind of things, being, you know, agile, mobile, hostile. I like using those because at the end of the day, guess what? Those are the things that are going to propel you to move forward in your own daily lesson. You know, was there times that I wanted to give up? Yes, there's times that I've wanted to give up. I mean, you know, but you just got to keep pushing ahead, forging ahead, moving forward.
Let me say something to you, coaches. I'm sitting here listening to you talk. I can recognize that what your reason, your purpose, and your why is. At the end of the day, it's not even about sports with you. I see that it's about life lessons, giving these kids an opportunity to understand that they might not be a professional basketball player, they may not be a professional baseball player, or whatever sport you may play. You're implementing these life lessons in these kids' life, and I can relate to you because that's what I do, and I love doing it. It's not about basketball. He's had a journey. He's met people in his life. With your buddy, what was his name, Mr. Kalen Jenkins. Yep. He gave you something. He put something in you that was so recognizable that you had to do this. Mm-hmm. He's the one who woke you back up to your dreams and your aspirations and your goal. I wanted to ask you, what was your goal? What was when you jumped in basketball? I know you probably wanted to be a professional basketball player, as we all do, you know, when we love a sport. But as I listen to you speak, man, I try to tell these kids, same thing you do, Dom, here at 4D Sports Talk. We try to put these kids on a pedestal, give them a platform to recognize their dreams and their aspirations. Yep. You're building men.
Trying to build men. Absolutely.
You're building men. We're all building men in this room. And man, I appreciate you. Affirmations to you and what you do. Man, it's just a different way of you're coaching and you're giving them those life lessons. It's not even about sports. You know, we got 4D Sports Talk. It's not about sports. It's about life.
Life.
It's about life, man. And we need more coaches like you that's teaching these kids life lessons. Yep. Right? They're learning life lessons. And you know, congratulations to you, man, for getting the job. I want to say that to you. They got a good coach. They got a good coach coming, man. If you keep implementing those life lessons, man.
I mean,
it's great.
Let's talk about another life lesson, right? So I'm getting a lesson right now from my own son, my oldest. All right.
Yeah.
This is interesting. So I took a job in the summer. All right, working at a scrap yard. All right, very very hard work. Okay,
Yeah.
you got to learn all these different metals, and you gotta go outside in the hot sun, and sometimes you're out there for like 5 hours straight.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where I'm an out of shape guy.
Me too. I can relate. Absolutely.
My
All
son,
right, we're not going there.
my son got this. My son he works at this scrapyard also. I helped him get this job,
Right.
and he has excelled at it. They love him there, right? And I go there, and I'm like, after like now it's been week 4. After like 3 hours, 4 hours, I'm like, I can't do this
You ready
job.
to quit? You ready to quit?
My arms kill.
He's ready to quit.
But my son is like,
Deep, Dad.
you need to get in shape, and you need to stop eating all the stuff that you eat. All right.
Yeah.
Which I'm like,
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. I
So
appreciate it.
so he basically he puts this app on my phone, and he says, you know what, I'm gonna make you work out, and
Absolutely.
like literally.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is part of the lesson.
That's part of the lesson, man.
And you know what? When we're talking about servants and leaders, and
Yeah.
you can learn. This is the other part of what I have learned. That my lesson. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year-old kid. All right. Now he's not a kid. He's a grown man.
Absolutely.
All right. Because I can't mess with him like I used to.
Right.
So
Butt kick, right?
he's 20 years old, but you can learn from your own children. All right, I've learned something from my own kids. I've learned a bazillion things from my wife. All right, if she's she's probably watching this right now, saying, well, he didn't listen to me. But I listen. And
Right.
you take things in, and then you're like, after the fact, you're like, what's the lesson that you're learning with this? And that's what I want players to do. I want players to basically be able to look at anything that they see and get something from it.
Yeah.
Whether it's it could be basketball, or it could be philosophy, or psychology, or it could be computers, whatever it is, and you're always learning something from somebody to make yourself better.
Yeah.
And that's what we always talked about with the Randolph guys, the Weston guys. Let's get better today. Let's get better.
I had the same problem. I blocked my son's number, now his wife calls me.
You're gonna learn something from that. You keep
She has a lot of,
You gonna answer the phone.
No, wait a minute. I think it's called teamwork here.
Yeah,
Teamwork.
you're gonna learn something. Yeah, today. Yeah, it's amazing. Like you say, you learn from your failures and you learn from your wins.
Yep.
There's no such thing as failures, really. It's a learning process.
Yep.
When you fail, when you think you fail, it's a mental thing. When you think you failed,
right.
it's something that you learn out of that.
Yep.
You learn not to do this again. I'll do this better. Always take your failures as something positive, because you know what to do next time, and you know how hard to work. The metal company, you learn something from it. I need to get in shape. Definitely.
I'm ready to dive into Canton basketball. I want to hear who you lost. I mean, this is all awesome.
Yeah.
This should have been a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can do that.
But we were getting closer on the break. But my question is, let's talk about who you lost this year.
Yep.
Who you think? We mentioned some of these players, but of course your coaching staff.
Yep.
Because they're not here, we'll give them a kudos. You love to do that as well. But I definitely want to hear your thought process going into this next season with the boys you have coming. And
Good.
God knows you like we talked about the AAU games. You're seeing these future Canton kids,
Yep.
so you know how they could progress. You probably have a couple freshmen, or maybe a freshman that's ready to play at that level.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's used to the speed of the game. But let's go right into that. We can go to this last question before we take our last break.
Okay.
How many guys did you lose?
Oh, seniors. I believe they lost. I looked on a picture and I counted those guys up. Because we played Canton last year.
Yep.
All right. Randolph plays Canton in a Christmas tournament. I did a scouting report on all these kids. I know Big Kareem. He was hurt against us. We're losing Kareem. Matt Chafin, who was a guard. Julius Hicks, who was a guard forward. a couple, there's a couple, like 2 or 3 backup players.
Right.
So the guys returning, some key guys that are returning, Lucas Messiah, Anthony Delizia, Jamal McConnell, Jeremiah Preden, Zaza Francoeur.
Right.
All right. Those are some of the key guys. There's other kids that I don't know their last names yet.
Right. You
I
will.
Go, I go to summer
You
league.
just not
and,
getting to know him real well.
Yeah.
Calvin Ellis, James Gibbs. Those guys are seniors. Owen Lane. He's one of my captains. So Zaza Francoeur and also Owen Lane, they're my captains. So what happened was, they did basically they did a vote.
Yep.
And those are my 2 captains who were returning. Those guys have been fantastic. All right, those 2 guys have done a great job with summer league. They got it all started even before I got the job, and kudos to those guys. And then the younger guys, I know a lot of guys' first names, and they play hard. They get after it, and they have a lot of high energy, and I think that we'll be all right.
There you go.
I think we'll be all right.
All right, we're going to take our last break. Again, you can call in 508-222-1320. We're talking Canton basketball, boys basketball. We'll be back with Coach Dan Kaiser and more right after this.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Lucy Cabral, otherwise known as the Paparazzi. We are so fortunate to have in studio with us. We're asking him a bunch of questions. It's so enlightening to listen to the new head coach over for basketball at Canton. Very interesting interview with you, Dan. And my next question is, you said you also teach special ed students in Canton, and that's basically how you got the job as head coach. You went from interim to head coach. So how does that balance out?
Well,
It doesn't. No.
It's interesting.
I again, when I was in high school, it goes all the way back to high school. When I was in high school, I had a tough time learning. I was not a very good reader. I was not a very good writer. I was not a very good student per se. You know, I ended up getting, you know, I struggled to get C's. But what happens is, you know, in Ohio they didn't have IEPs, you know, individual education plans. I mean, they started to have that, but it wasn't like a thing. You know, Massachusetts, what I've come to find out is Massachusetts, you know, they're the birthplace of a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things. One of the things is this is like this is the father of, you know, education. You know, father, mother, however you want to look at it. Education started in Massachusetts, and basically I was I ended up getting a teaching degree, moderate disabilities, special ed. You know, I worked at a program called the Brandon School from like 2003 to 2019, 2020. And while I was there, I was working with kids that basically have, you know, social emotional issues, kids that basically, kids that basically they get in trouble, you know, DYS, DCF, et cetera, all that. And what happens is you know, as you're a special ed teacher, you know, you have to be a very, very caring guy, you know, or lady. You know, you have to be a person that basically you understand that there are multiple ways of learning. All right, there's lots of modalities of learning, and you know, I've come to find out that for my own self, you know, I wasn't a very good reader. I'm not a very good writer, but one of the things I was able to do was just like watch and observe, and I was able to watch, you know, like I can watch a YouTube video and pick things up, and this is the way a lot of kids will learn as well. You know, but what you're teaching is you're teaching, you know, reading skills, writing skills. You're teaching them a little bit of math. I mean, again, if my wife is watching this, she's probably saying, "Yeah, he's terrible at math. You know, he's awful," and she's right. You know, but you know, as a special education teacher, you know, I went from the Brandon School and I got a job at Tech Phoenix Academy, and I was there for a year and a half. And while I was at Tech Phoenix Academy, my boss was Sheila Thomas, who was a great principal, did outstanding work. Well, she retires at the end of my first year. She becomes a consultant at Canton, and she's the one who made the suggestion for me to go to Canton.
Oh, wow.
So I was very, very fortunate that, you know, she's at the right place, right time, you know, basically, you know, gave me a recommendation. And I've learned a lot of things in terms of special education, you know, just dealing with, you know, just IEPs, dealing with just different people, you know, all these different things that go on. And this is how you just try to balance it. And one of the things that helps me is people are like, you know what, you're a basketball coach. Everybody loves basketball. You know, you can help these kids out by, you know, giving them motivational stuff all the time, which I try to do.
All right, we got 1 minute left.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
No, that's
So,
okay.
you know, that's how I balance it. You know.
Got it.
That's great.
Got it.
Coach, well, I know I can speak for us here at 4 Deep Sports Talk Show. We want to wish you all the best in the season.
Thank
I
you.
know the WARA 1320, except when you play Attleboro, probably was not going to wish you the best. But it was great to meet you. It was really
Thank
cool to
you.
meet you.
Thank you.
You know, I describe you as a guy that's been there, done that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
seen it all and done it all, and trying to pass it on, not just mentor kids, but try to teach them the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
I need to give a shout out. On my way down here, I stopped at, where did I stop at? Seekonk. And the Seekonk Warriors high school boys soccer was
gonna get
doing
cut
a
off.
car wash. All right. So kudos to them. Thank you for washing my car. And we're going to get you on the show.
Nice.
So for everyone here at 40 Sports Talk, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.